call the meeting to order and have a roll call. And just mark the three of us present. Sure. Thank you. And have a pledge of allegiance, please. Training. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda. We have number 4 other issues. Do we have anything in particular to add now, or just see where we're at when we get to it?
Yeah, I just put that there in case there was
Something come up.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't have anything else.
Okay.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and support. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, public comment? Is there any public comment? Okay, so approval of the minutes of August 23rd, 22. Very detailed minutes, by the way.
Move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
I also support them, so no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. And we have Mr. Peacock on
He's-
Zoom.
Yes, he's driving. I believe he's in Ohio, but he's online. Right, Steve?
So for the
Steve?
public's benefit, we have our auditor from Raymond Robson, Steve Peacock, on the line.
Steve, can you hear us?
He's probably muted.
Or are we muted? Jen, I see a thing in the bottom there,
Me
red.
too. I don't know if Laurel can undo that. We are definitely green here, but in the corner of our screen, Laurel, there's a red.
That looks like we're
Mute button.
muted.
Okay, well, I'm sure they'll get that squared away. Steve, you can let us know, if you can hear us, you can let us know when maybe he's muted, huh?
I don't see him muted. I think we are.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're
and he might be
muted.
able to hear us then. He'll let us know if he can.
Darcy, could you go talk to Laurel? Because I'm guessing by that means in the bottom that we're,
That is awesome.
if he's saying he can't hear us.
Can you see it? Yeah, right in the bottom corner next to the rock, it's red. Everything's. We didn't touch it.
No, that's true. That's true. I can verify
Your
that.
type touched it, so. It was you?
Eric,
Blame the media. Worked fine until Eric walked in the
you
room.
stepping on the pedal over there, Eric?
The volume was crossed off. Maybe there's a volume?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never, it's turned on. Steve, can you hear us?
Well, she's in a dead zone. We have plenty of those.
No, he pulled off. I just talked to him a couple minutes ago. Let me call him. He just sent me a text.
Must be on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if you
Okay.
can pull off to a better spot. This could be a long meeting.
Well, that solves that issue. Okay, Steve, let's try again. Can you hear us? If you could respond, please. You could just call. He could just
Yeah.
do it the old-fashioned way here. Let me call him here. All right, can you hear us? But we can't hear you. Okay, why don't you log off and log back in and see if not, we'll get you on those old-fashioned phone, okay? Okay, all right. He's gonna log off and log back on, maybe that will help.
So, in the meantime, do you want to give an overview of
Well, let's see,
Would
because
we
Steve to
already
be,
know this?
yeah, I'd like to start off and let's see.
All right.
Because then
Okay,
I may want to, I don't want Steve to have to repeat himself. Or
All right.
Repeat myself.
Would the other phone work better?
Well, it may have to just get the other phone here. We could just put them on. Do it the old fashioned way.
Steve, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
oh, much
All right.
better.
I think we're good. I think we're good. Right. Thank you, Steve. I know you had a busy day and you're on the road in a different state, so thank you for taking time out of this. You want to just start? And then-
Yep, go ahead,
All
please.
right, all right, Steve, we'll start here. Thanks for this meeting on short notice, but I think it's important that we talk about where we are with our finances department and so forth and get a dialogue going and honest input. So this has probably been the most controversial I've dealt with in my 10 years here, and I think we're all trying to make progress. And I think we have a lot of common goals. I think we all can agree, all 7 commissioners and the staff, the elected officials, that we all want Jared and the staff to be successful. Jared's been here 2 months. His 2 accounting people have been here just a couple weeks more than Jared. When we went through this transition, we didn't anticipate having 3 complete vacancies. We didn't anticipate the 2 accounting people transferring to the treasurer's office. And so it's been a challenge for them because they are truly brand new. And why they've had experience in accounting, government accounting is different than private accounting. So that's been a challenge. But I think we can find common ground that everybody wants Jared and the staff to be successful. And I think they've been working with the staff and trying to do the best under some trying circumstances. Also, I think we can agree everyone wants a clean audit in 2023. We have a long history of having clean audits, and we certainly want that to happen again in 2023. One of my goals is we need to resolve these challenges with finances prior to the new administrator coming on board. I think we all can agree on that. We have 3, I think, very capable candidates. I don't think any 3 of them have a strong financial background. It'd really be unfair for them to come in and try to deal with this issue. And then we're going to have at least 2 new board members in January. And so at least my goal is, and I think all of our goal is, we need to develop a plan, go forward, make sure we're successful with finance, do what we can to make Jared and his staff successful. The question is, how do we do that? I think one of the key things is we just need to provide training. Jared has a lot of experience with audits and government accounting, but like anybody coming into a new job has to provide training and just with and we don't have to rehash what happened in the past. It's just been a series of very unfortunate incidents and circumstances the last year or so that got us in this situation. So we've been talking. I know, Jen, thank you for your help with Jared the last several weeks. Sure. I hear the 2 of you talk on a regular basis. I hear laughter, which is always good when there's laughter coming in. And I like your giggly laugh when you get going, Jen. It's unique. And I've heard Jared laugh in there too, so that's good to hear. But I thought we'd start off with Jared. Why don't you come up and give an overview? Because we're talking about finances and Jared, and he's here. So I've asked Jared today just to give us an honest overview of his assessment since he's been here since, what, August 1st?
Yeah, officially been 2 months as of last Friday.
And I asked Jared to just be honest and blunt on what he sees are the issues and how he'd like to go forward. And hopefully we all can find common ground and work as a team to go forward, to accomplish the goals, which I think we all agree that we need to accomplish. So go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, so like you just said, just hit the 2-month mark. Been a very busy 2 months, definitely. Plenty for me to learn here, even coming from a background of auditing and accounting, and specifically governmental accounting. As much as I like it to happen all at once, it's really a process. of learning everything that you guys have going on here, all of your funds, everything that has to do with that. I mean, then on top of having a new position for me, it's really a whole new department that you've created with, like you said, multiple new employees who have never done anything like this before, I would say. And of course, budget, getting that all out. So it has been very, very busy and a very challenging 2 months. I enjoy a challenge though. I like that. In my previous job, I like problem solving, going in and correcting things. And I find myself doing that here a lot, and I enjoy that. We've had 3 different finance directors in a 6-month span. So we all have our own style, and that creates its own issues. What do we need to see specifically happen, and how do we handle it? I know there's been concerns with financials and stuff before I started, and of course with a completely new staff, there's going to be plenty of concerns coming in, how things are going to be handled. Is it going to be accurate? And are we going to be following the internal controls and everything that we have in place? I can't exactly speak too much about what happened, prior to me being here. But there are some things that I, want to go back and kind of put my own style to, or set up differently and maybe adjust to try to be in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And yeah, some of it might be mine, how I want to see it. Some of it I think does need to be changed to be accurate. So I'm coming up with kind of a to-do list for myself to go through and get our books ready for the audit by the end of the year. Obviously, I know since we've started, things have not been perfect. Which, I anticipated. I think it's reasonable to assume that when we're all starting out that we will struggle through some things. The important part here, I think, is being able to correct it and to move forward and have that plan going. There is growing pains with having a new department, having that adjustment period. That's where I see us being right now. I think Steve Peacock had said, it's going to take maybe 18 months to really get this going, and that was before we were even talked about coming in. That was with experienced people doing these positions. Specifically, I know we were talking about some payroll issues. I know in one pay period, we saw kind of some errors that all had to do with the exact same situation, which it was taxable versus non-taxable travel. Luckily, when Michelle came in, it was the first time somebody went over that with me. And we got to talk about that and explain, how it should be, what is taxable, what is non-taxable. Our department, after that meeting with them, came up with kind of like a little cheat sheet for us moving forward. So we can refer back to that and have kind of a plan in place there. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And we don't know always the questions to ask. If somebody doesn't bring it to our attention, then we may not know if there are any errors. And some of that will be training, I do like to say, while we're doing payroll for these areas and everything, probably half of them, I would say, were a difference of $5 or less. So I don't think we're talking about material amounts for our financial statements. I think that is important to look at. But still things that need to be corrected moving forward. Many of the issues have been resolved already with anybody's pay. And then for anything else remaining, I think we've got a good plan going forward. I'm talking to Steve Peacock on Monday. I brought up, you know, we've had lots of changes here. If you see in the fourth quarter of this year, things are improved, things are either improving or good, how's that going to reflect in our audit? And I think they will more heavily look at this final quarter of the year, moving forward to see if there would be any type of finding there. I'm not sure, Steve, can you hear me or respond to that, but is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. When I talked to the treasurer and Darcy and those guys, we talked about the audit firm being patient during a year of transition, and we certainly will do that. And where bumps are in the road during a calendar year, if we see progress towards being made towards the end of the year and controls are enhanced and errors are minimized, then yeah, then we're gonna more of a emphasis on the quarters that are fixed than the ones that may have errors in them because they have now been remediated. So you're correct that it would be, or we're going to test a lot, a little bit more testing this year, a lot more testing this year, and where we do find issues, we would expect them to be corrected before the end of the year, and then that's half the battle. When an error is identified, a corrective action plan is implemented, and the errors go away. That's what we want to see as an audit firm, and depending on the magnitude of what we find during our findings, because it warrants a finding, I can tell you now, if it's what you're saying, if it's a $5 error, 5 here, 5 there, that's not going to rise to the level of material weakness. If we find repeat control variances and not the willingness to try to learn and change, that's going to be a different discussion.
All right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thank you to everybody, bringing on all of us kind of really at the same time, I know it's not an easy thing for the staff that you had here. We're constantly having questions and different things like that. But of course, that is part of us progressing and learning, and I think we always have welcomed training coming into our office, and really from anybody who knows. So I mean, right now, I'm coming up with some stuff, and I know Steve is coming up for some like goals or standards for us moving forward for our department and for me personally. Going back to having 3 different finance directors, it could be a difficult year. And I'm sure that is why you would test more during the year. You have some idea coming into an audit about maybe how things are going to look, and if you're more worried, then yeah, you'll probably pull more things to test. And as Chet said, we want a clean audit. I would say it looks like, in the past audits, there have been material weaknesses over the financial statements, different material adjustments that needed to be made. I think the finding's been there for each of the past 5 years. I know there's been adjustments that have been made in the past. So really my ultimate goal for us would be to at least reduce that to a significant efficiency. This year that'll definitely be difficult, but I think if we're working together that we can really put that on our list of something that we want to get done. And talking with you guys, I want to know what is expected of us. What do you guys hope to see? Everybody says they want us to be successful, so what does that look like for all of you? I know I see my responsibility as being these internal controls, the financials overall, and having them following GAAP requirements. So I'm looking kind of as a big picture here. We might have, between the 3 of us, different methods of getting that done, but in the end, that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, let me follow up on that, because I'll be departing here shortly, and I do really want this resolved. I don't want the new administrator to come and deal with this. And this has been emotional for everyone, and we all need to go forward. So we could rehash what happened the last 16 months forever and be here for hours, and that's not going to change anything. So I'll put together a proposal, which I talked to Jared about, which I talked to Michelle about, and what I talked to Steve about too. And while we don't have the details, let me just give you an overview of my perspective. And I'm trying to be non-biased on this and go forward and do what's best for the county and do what's best long-term for the finance department. So as you look at now, I think the biggest issue is training. And I think you would agree, Jared, based on our discussion, you and your staff would appreciate training.
Of course, we don't want the headache of having to go back all the time.
Okay.
And redo stuff. We want to have it right. And, yes.
So what I would suggest at this time, and it's just a proposal for dialogue, we pick a date of March 1st. We set up a training program. We have the clerk's office, which is Michelle, and I'm guessing Jen, but that's up to the clerk, oversee the finance until March 1st. And I'll tell you why I pitched March 1st as a review date. Between Steve Peacock, Michelle, Jared, and I, we come up with specific standards that have to be measurable, that we will develop in the near future. They will come up, and it will be reviewed March 1st. And I say March 1st because by then, there'll be a new administrator here for a couple months. There'll be a new board here for a couple months. If we have measurable standards, we can see, is it working or not working? And this time, the 23-24 board can make a decision how to proceed with consultation with the new administrator. But it really would not be fair for the new administrator and for a new board to come in on with all these issues going forward. I think it's been stressful for Michelle, for Jared, for Jen, for myself. We're all trying to get to the same goal with different ways. But I think if we could agree that to transfer the oversight and training to the clerk's office through March 1st, have a review on March 1st, and have Steve, Michelle, I, and Jared come up with specific standards or practices or benchmarks, whatever you want to call them, that have to be met. And that as a finance committee, you meet on a monthly basis. When I was a superintendent, my finance committee met every month prior to the board meeting. And most of the time there weren't any issues, but it was just nice to have that dialogue so we all can be on the same page. So I think it's difficult for the three of you because you're hearing all these different stories and you're not finance people. I've been involved with finance, but I don't have a finance background. The three finalists do not have a significant finance background. So I think the key is training and experience. Can Jared learn and the staff? I think absolutely. We have two people that have been involved for many years who, as I understand, are willing to take this on if the standards are acceptable. And that's why I'm thinking if Steve, I, Jared, and Michelle can come up with standards, present them to the board so you can make a decision how to go forward. And I picked March 1st as a date because that'll give time for the new board and the new administrator. Also, they'll give us time to wrap up the 2022 budget. Usually March 1st is the deadline date for that budget. And that's when the audit starts. Thoughts, comments? And I don't put words in Michelle's mouth, but she said she would be interested under certain circumstances and she wants to know what the standards are and she would be involved with setting up those benchmarks. You know, one thing Steve talked about, and Steve can chime in here because Steve and I talked a couple of days ago too. He's one to help it, but you know that the one of them he talked about that the payroll records are clean for X number of payrolls. I mean that's black and white. That's tangible. Have the transfers been done properly? Stuff that's measurable. So it's not a emotional thing. Are they being done? Are they being handled properly? Are we meeting all of the accounting standards? Steve, anything you want to say here? I don't put you on the spot here, but I think you have graciously agreed to kind of be a consultant to us if we choose to go down this path.
Correct. I will be happy to provide everybody involved the kind of the best practices that we see in our client base, what comes out of the COSO internal control framework, and what's going to work best for Leelanau County. And I have never had a situation where a proposed standard or best practices that we may have mentioned to anybody in the county. They were never ignored. So the county has been proactive in my involvement with the county to help them in ways that makes their financial reporting accurate, streamlined, efficient, and so forth. And I am willing to do whatever you guys want me to do with best practices, goals, measurable goals. And, you know, my 18-month comment, it still stands. I mean, you know, when we talked earlier this week, somebody from the clerk's office, if they're going to take ultimate control of this till March 1st, the board votes to do that, you know, there's almost like an internal audit function until there's 100% assurance or comfort level, I guess it is, that everything's being done correctly. That, you know, that individual from the clerk's office may have some spot checking that's done after March 1st. And I would certainly keep that on the table until both Jared's comfortable and the clerk's office is comfortable and the new administrator is comfortable. And then at that point, you kind of let the bird fly free. Well,
Okay?
And I would be interested in support from our auditor along the way when we have that monthly update and review of benchmarks, that it's not only an internal audit, but some assistance from Mr. Peacock to make sure we're making progress, and I think that would be key.
and I am 100% agreeable for that, absolutely.
So I guess we'd like to hear input from you how to go forward. This makes sense? Your thoughts?
I'll go first. Yeah, I kind of like what I'm hearing. I guess what I'd like to see, I mean, we got talent in this room. I'm not going to deny that. But we all got to work on the same page.
Exactly.
And what I would like to see, or suggesting is to add to that is, when you say clerk's office, for starters, does that mean just Jen and Michelle, or does that mean anybody from her office?
Well, we'd have to work out. I don't want to speak on their behalf, so that's why I haven't talked
I mean,
to Michelle.
I would like to see it, those two, but what I'd really like to see is at least, I'd like to see it once a week, but maybe that's too much for your schedule, but at least bi-weekly where the four of you, say it is the four of you, and Steve, if Steve can make it, have a meeting, see where you're at each week.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Very tangible, measurable
You're right.
outcomes.
But not just once a month,
Yeah.
but stay on top of it.
Yeah, that's internal, but I'm talking externally for the board. You know, have a finance meeting once a month, or just
Right.
give an
Well,
update
plus-
to the
no,
board
yeah.
once a month.
No, I
But that's
agree.
what, and we just haven't had time to talk about very specific benchmarks, but I think what Michelle would like, what I would like, what Jared would like, is very measurable stuff. We can give you a list, okay, this is how we're gonna operate. It won't be abstract objects. No, okay, let's just use your example. One of the benchmarks will be, we're meeting every 2 weeks. Another one is, there'll be X number of payrolls done without errors. There'll be X number of I'm just coming off the top of my head here. Steve said he'd help us through all that. Michelle had some ideas of stuff she wanted in it. But these are measurable, black and white, that no matter who picks up the sheet, we'll be able to say, okay, are we following these guidelines, are we not? I call them benchmarks, Steve calls them standards. They mean the same thing, but very measurable. And that's why I picked March 1st. We need to have a date to accomplish all this. And if we don't, the next board and next administrator can determine if they want to extend it, what do they want to do? Or like Steve said, let the bird fly free.
Well, yeah, I like it. I like what I'm hearing, and I really like the idea that everybody is willing to work together, and it was said to us that, you know, we've never had a plan. So we've never gotten to get that far. So I'm excited that we're talking about a plan, and just as long as it also includes, it seems, and maybe it can be done otherwise, but it just seems to me like we need one trainer.
Well, that's why Michelle needs to be part of it, and she can assign someone. And
Okay.
I don't speak on Michelle's behalf, but Michelle, do you want to come up here, please? I don't want to put you on the spot, but obviously
Okay, so I want to know if that
Michelle
makes sense.
Michelle is a key component, and without Michelle's input and with Jen's support, Steve, Jared, and I could meet, but we really need, as you said, the whole team approach.
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay.
Would it be, it depends on what topic we're talking about. And we talked preliminarily about some things that had to be addressed. And we haven't put it down in writing, but in a manner in who would be doing what and how that information is related to Jared, depending on review of past payrolls.
Okay, so,
Take place and how that would go out so that he can see what the issue is and what to be looking for when he is handling the payroll in correlation with the union contracts, personnel policies, and he did touch on the travel and not travel. He doesn't know what he doesn't know when it comes to that. That's not comment on his prior experience. It's a comment on county government and how payroll is processed. And I have some preliminary thoughts if this is where it ends up, but it does need to be in writing. It needs to be a plan that everyone can see this is what the plan is. Training and working on some of these items are projects in order to help him. And I've been formulating in my mind how that would work, but it would be limited with my staff and contact.
Well, yeah. This is exactly, I want to have this meeting here quickly,
Okay.
because we do have quite a few special meetings coming up between
Yeah.
budget and regular
Yeah,
and so
sure.
forth. And I've been talking to Steve separately about benchmarks. I've been talking to Jared separately about benchmarks. Michelle and I have been talking, and everything I've been hearing from them, I agree with. But we want to get your endorsement, how to go forward. Does this make sense to the three of you? Because we want to work together, and we need to work with all of you as a board too, and we don't need any more controversy. And if we can agree that this is the path, this is the idea, if you agree with the concept, it'll be up to the four of us by a specific date to come up with a concrete plan that includes all these benchmarks.
yeah, go ahead, Ted.
I like the direction. I don't know how to say this, but it involves more than the clerk and the finance department. So I hope the final plan talks about how HR fits in with this plan, and how treasurer's office fits into this plan, and how the administrator's assistant fits into this plan, so that everybody's working together as a team, because that has been missing.
And that's the key.
So I would hope that our treasurer would endorse where we're going to, and he's got as much at stake as anybody.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud here. Today is October, I don't know, 6th? We have a meeting Tuesday night. We won't be ready by Tuesday, but we do have a workshop meeting on the 19th. And I think by the 19th, I'm pretty confident we sit down, make this priority, we can come up with a very specific plan. Our budget, as you know, our agenda for the 12th is pretty packed already, but we need time to sit down, and Steve is in Ohio anyway. But if we set a goal of coming up with a written plan with specific benchmarks by the 19th, I'm optimistic we can accomplish that. And that way all seven of you could look at it and go forward.
Okay. Yeah, anything else to add, Rick?
No, I was just going to add what Ty mentioned. I thought about it afterwards, asking the treasurer if he wanted to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to start and then branch out, obviously.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So like I said, the beginning part was I talked to Steve, Jared, Michelle individually, and I'm hearing things that need to be in the plan. Still haven't heard from any of them anything that should not be included as a benchmark, because they all have different perspective on things that they think is important, which is the way it should be. But we come with that, and then we need to expand it. But if you agree with this concept, you can give the board an update next week, and I'll set a deadline date for that October 19th budget meeting.
And from what I understand, we've got different policies, and we obviously have different union contracts than other counties. So
Yep.
we're unique in ourselves, and all that needs to be followed.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, but you have urgent needs. This is October. The volume of work coming down on people that are not experienced in county government between now and March is huge. And it's going to start to hit quickly. And the longer this goes on, the more difficult this is going to get.
So for the timeline, are you agreeing with October 19th, or do you think we can have a plan in
You need to move.
faster than October
Well,
19th?
Chet and I'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk
All
and
right.
see what we can do.
I'm saying,
yeah, 'cause-
our next meeting is Tuesday night, today's already, and tomorrow we're doing
Right.
interviews, so it's not feasible when you're doing interviews Tuesday. So
Okay.
I'm saying then, we have a budget meeting on the 12th, but we need time to come up with the standards and benchmarks, review them, put them in writing, make sure we all feel comfortable. We can give an update Tuesday where we are. But if you as a committee agree that, give us to the 19th to come up with a specific plan with the benchmarks and standards.
Well, I agree with that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
sorry about that. Can I make a brief suggestion? With the payrolls, the previous payrolls, and the requirement of having your 941s filed with the IRS, I'd like to make a suggestion, clearly it's up to the board, but that the review of the previous payrolls becomes, we need to do that before the 19th. So for two reasons. Number one, so the tax forms were filed correctly. And number two, to maybe identify some systemic problems in the processing of the payroll that can be emphasized in the standards or the benchmarks that need to be looked at quick, sooner than later. And that'll give us some ideas in terms of where we have to emphasize some of these controls.
Oh, yes, thank you, Steve. Actually, that's where I was going, because the point I was going to make is that we're already in the fourth quarter. So we want to get any changes or corrections that we need to have made as soon as possible. So I agree with Michelle on that also. So I would think that that's something that could begin now and not have to wait for the entire plan.
Whether this goes through or doesn't, they've been very cooperative with the last payroll, but based on what we know needs to occur, I am willing to start one staff member on that because we need to get through this, and it's a lot of work to get through it and then to get the Jared where we need to.
And I'm asking this because I honestly do not know. Tell us what that would entail doing.
Going
Holidays.
back and reviewing all payrolls, at least from May 26 forward.
And Jared, your thoughts on doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say let's focus on this third quarter's payrolls first, so that we can get that
Right,
out.
and we'll have to talk about
Okay.
that.
I mean, so you are agreement, we can start that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Some days, we weren't even here for, so going back
Correct.
and reviewing that, I mean, we should be involved.
So you are telling me and the board, you're both willing to do what Steve is suggesting.
Right.
Okay.
I have
Yes.
a
Ty?
question on errors that were made. Some of those errors need to be corrected and reimbursements or payment to. I mean, how does that all help? How does that work? Because if taxes were taken out and shouldn't have been,
So some of it, we can adjust their wages, and then that'll, for taxes, that'll all work itself out, and with the 941s, it'll all work itself out. If anything was just missed in a prior period, whether it was, maybe they got paid less or more, that's usually just fixed in the next one.
we can correct the MERS problems and the IRS problems and the state problems,
Right.
so that we know as we move forward, everything's been done.
I would almost think that these need to run parallel, because if there's overpayments, what an employee isn't going to want is maybe I don't know. Is it potential, they're not going to want it all to come out of one pay
That's why we
period,
have to
right?
go back, and we just can't
If
start
it's-
willy-nilly. We need to go back. We need
I
to
think they
look
were
to
trying-
see what has been done. and what
Simultaneously.
has been corrected, and we can see
If
what
that-
has been
does that make sense,
done.
Jared?
Yeah, if we go back, I mean, right now it's all just speculation of, what we'll see from months ago.
We don't
I
know
would-
what we don't know.
Huh?
We don't know what we don't know yet. Maybe,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I would say, if we find things as we go through it, we'll keep a running tally of anything for each individual employee and then come up with a plan once we kind of have an idea.
As I understand from comments, though, the pay discrepancies have not been significant dollars, right?
I would say it has not been significant. What would you say?
I would say, meaning not significant, so let's say you have $2,000 that somebody was paid taxable, so that's FICA that you're gonna collect back from the feds, and when you go to do your third quarter, and then you also owe the employee that 7%. Let's say that's on $2,500. Is it reportable to Steve as material? No, but you owe a certain individual $50 or a certain individual, and that's where it comes into the standards of how payroll is processed. And those need to be
Well,
corrected. And
Well, I
then
think I'm
balanced.
hearing that everyone agrees with Steve's suggestion that we review all of them. So I don't think there's a disagreement there.
No.
And that can happen parallel with us coming up with these standards.
I think so.
Well, and that would be one of the standards. But that can start quicker because I think there's agreement here. Everybody wants these issues resolved.
And, if nobody else, and it's part of the plan, obviously, but I would almost think that going back and reviewing those would be the quickest form of training. So would you be involved, do you hope to be involved in the review also, so that you see,
Right.
because there may be a pattern, there may not be, wouldn't that be great if there's no pattern? But,
Yeah,
Okay.
but no, I would definitely be involved with that. That is a great way to train.
okay. Does that make sense, Michelle?
We will be reviewing them all. We intend to get proposals from Kathy and all. I intend to put Kathy on it.
Okay.
And then working with Jared to share what we find. There's no point in him reviewing something if there's nothing there. And
This
that's
is
always
true.
your hope.
This is true.
Well, so, I mean, there is that process that going through and review.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Couple-
maybe there
maybe
are
couple.
errors.
Okay.
That'd be a wonderful problem.
It would be a wonderful problem.
Where there have been, some things have been corrected.
Okay,
Well, as you can see, we already started dialogue on this internally and everyone's
Good.
saying that they're in favor of it. So.
good. Good?
That's a question for Michelle. Would you feel more comfortable if we, March 1st was a mention, if we made this to like June 1st, get through audit?
I'm concerned with the March 1st date because you are in the middle of audit, but I think we have to go through a few other things before we can worry about the date.
That's,
Okay, but I mean, to extend it to like June, for the training.
The date's not gonna be a huge.
Okay.
factor for me. That's.
I just picked that date
Yeah.
just to get the dialogue starting. There's nothing magical other than that. I want to get some time and I want to put the stress on a new board right away and a new administrator right away. So I just picked March 1st, but there's nothing
Yeah.
magical about March 1st.
Well, just in our world, the months go so fast.
Yeah,
Like
I know it
October's
does.
Really, pretty much done.
But once again, if we have standards in place, you'll know
Right.
sooner versus later whether it's working or not.
I mean, how do we, it's a question for these two. If we meet once a month on Thursday, like, the first Thursday of the month.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all.
We have to work just as much as
Yeah.
they're
Through
gonna have to
December
work.
and then, next year.
Well, I'm guessing that'll be one of their standards we'll come up with benchmarks that the finance committee will meet once a month. I mean, that's part of the whole
Okay,
report.
all right.
But you're right, it has to be a partnership. And as long as we're all working together, I think that's the key.
All right. Ty?
Well, I have been worried, and so I have a comment to make. I think it's remarkable and something positive that we're all sitting here, and Jared, you're here and you want help, and I think it's remarkable that we've got two people in the clerk's office that are willing to help you, and I'm optimistic that your life will get easier, Chet.
Well, my life's gonna get easier one way or the other. It's your lives that I'm more concerned about. Seriously, it would not be fair to the new board and the new administrator to constantly deal with it, and it's not fair to these people. You know,
I agree.
they're all good people, they're all working hard. It's been a challenging year. We want this year to end successfully. We all agree, we want Jared to be successful, we want the staff to be successful, and we appreciate the help Jen and Michelle have given.
And I'd say, I mean, beyond that, really everybody here has contributed in training us, and they've all been very willing to help us if we come to them with questions.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really had any roadblocks that have popped up where we can't necessarily get answers.
Just an observation, I think you two have worked better together than some other departments have worked. And that has concerned me. And I think it's up to the administrator to make sure that everybody's on board with whatever plan we approve.
Nick?
I guess I look at this, you know, about a week ago, I finally realized that when we first started this, we thought maybe we would have, you know, 2 people that were already in your department, but they moved on, which is great for them. So
Three.
we had to hire 2 new people, and it's like, it reminds me of an expansion sports team. I mean, we're starting out with, you know, a whole new group here. So hang in there, and you have our backing. Same to you, Michelle.
Well, keep with that, I'm a baseball fan, I feel like we're the Seattle Pilots of 1969,
Yeah.
starting off.
Or the New York,
brand new
New
team.
York Mets.
Or the New York Mets in 62, starting off completely scratch. So is there support from the 3 of you on what we discussed? So
Yes,
just to formalize, we will come up with specific benchmarks, standards, whatever we wish to call them, come up with a specific plan by October 19th. The review of the payroll, we'll start that right away.
okay,
We already had discussion about that. And we'll work with Steve and come up with those benchmarks and standards and present them to the board no later than the 19th.
You need a motion?
Do you-
If you just want
do
to
you wanna-
endorse the concept.
we do endorse the concept. Do you want a full motion to go to Tuesday night? What's everybody
I
most
guess
comfortable
we
with?
We could just give the same update, and the 3 of you
Okay.
endorse this, that'd be helpful. So I don't know, Melissa, if you just all state on the record that you endorse this, I mean, it's up to you. There's no motion here that is mandated.
I think we've all stated that we endorse moving
Okay.
forward.
You feel comfortable with that, Ty? Okay. Very good, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Steve?
just one other observation real quick. Doing the review of the previous payrolls, I'm assuming that payrolls going forward from today, there is some type of oversight or review by the clerk's office for payrolls that are being prepared going forward now. Is that accurate?
Is that accurate?
You need to
Jerry?
make that motion. And Chet and I are going to come up with something by Tuesday night regarding that, but that does need to occur immediately.
We've had one payroll since those issues, and Kathy and Jim did.
Okay,
I think what Steve's saying is he'd like to start from our Monday meeting, start to finish, and that's not what's happening. So Kathy and I come in at the end when it's ready to go to print. We're not part of the, let's sit down and review timesheets. This is how we've done it previous years. And is that what the momentum is, or is it just at the end, Jen and Kathy spot check? That's what Steve is asking.
personally, I would think the training should start in the beginning. Is that, can you agree to that, Jared? Does that make a lot of sense, right? Nip the, find, if something is being done not exactly to, as someone said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. So if something's being done not as the wheel has been turning, let's find that now and in the beginning of payroll. That makes sense to me. Does that make sense?
Well, Michelle and I can meet before Tuesday's meeting and see if we need a motion to do the draft.
Yeah, if you need one,
Because it's on
draft
the
it.
agenda for
Okay.
Tuesday anyway, for an update from this group. So we
Yep.
can-
But we want, I would feel better if at least we had 3 nods here that you are in agreement with this.
Yes, I am.
There is a resolution sitting there that this is the responsibility of the administrator.
And we can work all that out. We can work out.
I'm not going to jump the lane here because it's not the lane.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay,
I agree with it,
I'm
yes.
seeing 3 nods. Okay.
Okay, next
Very
issue,
good.
which is a little less controversial, is Harris software. And that's something that has been a challenge, I think, for quite a few years. Has nothing to do with this transition or anything. As I understand,
He's even picked up on me there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I asked Leanna, second or third.
so
week.
in very simple terms, we use the Harris software package, have for many, many years. We have a limited number of licenses. How many is that?
When we had contacted Harris, they said that we had 9 licenses. So that is really meaning, we can only have a certain number of people on at a time. Well, we definitely, especially with having new people on, have more than that. So we're having to have other departments get down, or, you have to stop whatever you're working on so that somebody else can get on the Harris.
So we have to call people and say, can you log off so they can do their work?
Interrupting.
And sometimes the finance department, sometimes the clerk's office, sometimes the treasurer's office cannot log on because we don't have enough spaces or slots, I guess is the non-technical
So-
term.
Darcy brought up a good point the other day. It's not just whether you're using it, they have to log off, and so let's say Darcy's in there, and she's in the middle of something, just because she walks away for a second, she doesn't want to have to walk all the way out to free up the license. I can tell you on Monday, we could not help customers. We had one license, and thank goodness we only had it because everyone was sick. No one was in the office. But we
Yeah,
are
thank goodness you were sick.
Oh, thank goodness, yeah.
Maybe the way you said
it. Running next door to ask John's staff, do they have anyone that can walk, and they run into the same problem too. I counted it out, there is at least 17, that's just my users, and there's far more people that would be on at once. I could, if we weren't paying attention, use up all 9 of those licenses just in my office if everyone doesn't log off their terminal and goes to the counter and stuff. And so we have at least 17. Now, the jail generally, or over in the sheriff's office, we probably only ever have 2 at the most, and 1 in the evening. Trudy just has 1. Down in administration area, there's 4. There's 6 in my office with the availability of 9. I counted, I think, 4, with possibly 6 in the treasurer's office for workstations. When we add our 2 other areas. So I'm sorry, Chad. I'd like 6.
Oh, no, go. I think she got a great overview. What Michelle and I talked about is actually coming up with a late addition by Tuesday's meeting, because this is a critical issue
So
here.
the point is we have to buy more licenses?
For $2,000 each, we need at least 6. There is no money in the IT fund. The transfer would have to come from probably contingency over to the IT fund. As you know, IT is a cost allocated fund. And she doesn't have any extra, but there is money from the general fund to transfer over. Of course, we can't do
So
that.
how many are you looking at? How many more?
6,
6.
Additional.
at $2,000 each.
So about 12,000.
Yeah.
15,000.
12,000.
Yeah.
Based on the quote that
Right, Leanna had contacted Harris to find out how many seats we had and how much it would cost for each additional seat.
But this isn't the same program that John was talking about a year ago?
no, that's when they go to new software. and
Okay.
choose new
All right.
software. This is not new because of Jared. This has been going on
You're
for
right.
years. This is license short. Could we use more possibly, but I think 6 would just do a world of good and without breaking the bank.
Yeah, some of these
Okay.
people are in Harris all day long, some of them log on and off throughout the day, so you don't need.
So if we were to
Really
move,
20.
if we were to move on this, how fast can you have them?
I like
Oh,
to
I
put
think-
more order in
yeah.
and get it.
Yeah, it's a technology issue, so it'd be quick.
Wednesday morning.
So that's why we're saying we'd like to do this at a late agenda item,
Okay.
I
Tuesday.
mean, is it something that we should do now, but also look at the next budget to add more?
No, I think with 6 would be pretty good. I think we can try. We've been hopping along with 9 and just going between offices. I think we want to try it.
I test out 6, if we're still having issues, I mean, at any point in time, we can just add them.
I mean, we're literally at a point where we're calling people, hey, could you log off? Well, I'm in the middle of a project. Well, we need to do this transaction and we can't log on. So it is a issue for everybody in the building.
So a late agenda item for Tuesday night.
We will, we can prepare an EBS, and I just want to go one step further. The need for licenses has nothing to do with whether I'm involved.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because we have the receipt. So,
Understood. Okay, very good. We'll look for that Tuesday night. We have other issues.
I just put that on the agenda.
Yes, is there anything anyone else wants
Well,
to?
this kind of relates to the first agenda item, but as chair for at least a couple more months, I have responsibility for my signature being on lots of reports. So I hope that your final plan involves some oversight so that I can feel comfortable with what I'm signing. And I think you can do that, but I think we were advised that by Mr. Peacock the other day, that I do have as chair a responsibility to make sure that.
Because your name is ultimately on the document.
Yes. So
So are you looking for anything in particular, or just
I'm
this
asking
plan?
them to think about that when they put.
To put it
together
part of the
their
benchmark thing.
Understood, okay.
And I think, Steve, you had some ideas about that, so we can talk about that. Are you still? Correct, Steve?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what Ty's talking about is at the end of the audit, we have a representation letter that's signed by chairman of the board, the administrator, the treasurer, and the clerk. And in that rep letter, it says that everything that has been given to the audit firm is true, accurate, to the best of the knowledge and belief of everybody who signs the letter. So when you have a situation where you have some issues, we'll say, and it might give some people trepidation to sign that, and I understand that. So I think where Ty's going with this is we need to put the appropriate level of effort into this, so that when any one of those folks are asked to ink that document, that they can do that with a clear conscience. And the same thing goes for the 941 that's filed with the IRS, the Michigan Department of Treasury, retirement folks, union reporting, all those items on there, when the officer signs those documents, they are stating that those are true, accurate, and honest to the best of their knowledge and belief. And those are, at least on the IRS one, it uses that P word, perjury. And I would be reluctant to sign, me personally, if I didn't know that every single number in there was accurate and honest.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anything, Jared, anything else you want to bring up today for us to discuss?
I mean, I would definitely, for our goals, having an audit and everything, I would like, everybody to be involved.
Okay. Understood, Michelle?
No, but Steve did just touch on it. Whenever, whether it be the chairman, myself, or the treasurer sign, we cannot be signing incorrect documents. And I will not, I made that very clear in the last couple of weeks, I will not sign things that are incorrect. And I say that with a smile on my face. I always try to smile when I tell him I'm not going to sign this. And explain why, of course. But if we can reach an agreement, the devil will be in the details. And
Certainly.
one of my requests was weekly meetings with the chairman involved, and Chet and I briefly touched on that. And we'll see where we go, because there are some details that have to be agreed on.
Sure. Yes, the details are very important. Got to cross all these Ts and dot all the Is, for sure. All right. Anything else? No? Jen, it's quiet? Okay. That kind of included discussion items. Any other board member comments? I just thank you all for coming today. We're about probably the last sunny days. We're going to have public comment. Is there any public comment this time? Gwen?
I want to thank all of you for your.
Go ahead. Could you come up, because this is being recorded.
Well, there's Reuben Township. Thank you all for your willingness. We've hired some excellent, excellent people, but it's totally unfair to expect people to do a job and not be trained for it.
Yep.
I I apologize for my part of the board that that's been expected of you, and I'm glad it's finally happening. This is really critical. We want you all to succeed. And to succeed, I'm just really glad you're willing to have this training. And I thank the clerk and her staff. They're kind of busy right now. This is ill-timed. So I appreciate their willingness to jump in and do this training. I sure wish it had happened a long time ago, but I'm glad it's happening now. I would like at least monthly reports to the board in addition to your reports here, because we need to know that this is progressing. And also caution, we have micromanaged in the past. We need to butt out as a board, make sure it's happening, make sure people have the time and the resources to do this, and then let the people know how to do this, get it done. So I'm relieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? I see none. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support?